I'm not nervous. It can't be worse than giving interviews when you're hungover.
It's on stream. Will you just come here for a second?
No problem.
Because it's frozen there. I don't know what's going on. Can you check?
No, she texts me. Hi guys, and welcome to this week's timeout. As you can see, we're in a bit of a different venue. We are down in Cork, and so I'd really like to welcome my panel this week: Colin O'Reilly, head coach and player in UCC Demons; Gráinne Dwyer, ambassador UCC Glanmire; Niamh Dwyer from Father Matthews; and Paul Kelleher, head coach of Neptune. So thanks a million, guys, for joining us. But as you may have noticed earlier on today, we are down in Cork for a very special reason indeed. It was the official announcement of the venue for the 2018 FIBA Women's European Championships for small countries, and it was announced today that the Mardyke Arena UCC are going to be hosting that event next year, which of course Ireland senior women will be playing in. And Paul, as assistant coach of the Ireland senior women's team, how are you feeling about it coming down to Cork?
It's going to be nice for us to play in front of our home crowd. I mean, I think the 18s got a great feel for it last year above in the arena, and it'll be nice for other parts of the country to hopefully experience something positive again. Yeah,
definitely. And the dates for those games next year, the 26th of June until the 1st of July. And don't worry, we'll have loads of details about tickets and how you can get involved once we get past the Cup in January. But moving on to the week's, the magazine, the normal show. And we're going to start with the Men's Super League. So we're going to swing over to you, Colin. But first of all, before we go into kind of any of the games, how are you finding the league this year? You've come back this year, and you know it's been a bit of a rocky road for some of your games, but you have been on the road, in fact, for a lot of them.
Yeah,
so.
League's changed since the last time. I think a lot of European players are adding a lot of depth to the teams. It's probably lowering the minutes of Irish players, so they're putting in more quality, intense minutes throughout the games, not forcing guys to play 35-40 minutes. And then we're the complete opposite. When we had depth, the league didn't have depth. Now that we have no depth, the league have it. So it's a different experience for us, but I think it's good for the league. I think UCD are the top team at the moment in the last column. They have only 2 losses, and they have valuable quality wins on the road. So right now they're probably, I would think it's theirs to lose at the moment based on their wins away, and they have to bring teams to UCD. But you know, 4 or 5 losses could win the league this year, which is very unusual. Normally it's you get to 2 losses and you're hoping you get to a tiebreaker.
Yeah.
So it's definitely different. I think it's definitely there's a few exciting young players have come into the league since the last time I was here, and obviously the European players add a different dimension to it. They play their roles very well, and whether they're playing 20 minutes or 10 minutes, they give what the teams need, and it's good. It's a different dimension to what it was, and you know it's better for everyone. It is more quality, more close games, and better for the fans really as well.
Yeah, well, I suppose it's definitely one that you can't really predict either. You can't predict games week to week. I know we're looking at it from a media point of view, and you can't call a winner at all anymore, which is fantastic to see.
Yeah.
But like you said about UCD, Marion, obviously they had a loss last weekend to Griffith College Source Thunder, who kind of had a bit of momentum coming into the game from a win against Tralee. What did you think of that result?
It's no surprise really. It's the way it's going. You've got to win your home game, so it was a must-win game for Thunder. I would have thought Marion have the quality away wins already, so that was kind of you know, a no loss situation for them. You know, they would be disappointed because they were up in the game to lose it in the end, but the pressure was on Thunder to win that game, because that would have been another home loss for them, which I don't think you can afford 2 or 3 home losses. So it's so for Marion it's not going to affect them. For Thunder, it'll probably give them that bit more confidence. They've changed up their rotation since their loss to DCU, and it seems to have worked for them. They've gone a bit bigger and come with a faster lineup into second unit, so it's pretty good. What, you know, those kind of adjustments with the extra depth, that's what you're seeing in the league now, that teams are changing from week to week, and it's good. It makes it more difficult for the coaches, definitely, for the scouting, but more enjoyable for the players, definitely.
Yeah, well, speaking of that game, we've got a couple of highlights from it here, and we also talked to head coach Dave Baker, so you can listen to what he had to say.
Yeah, absolutely delighted. To be very honest with you, we knew how good UCD are. From us, we have a lot of injuries. Conroy was the only available American for us this evening. We were down a couple of other bodies, but we felt that if we could keep it tight going into the 4th quarter, that maybe we'd start asking UCD. Yeah, absolutely delighted. To be very honest with you, we knew how good UCD are. From us, we have a lot of injuries. Conroy was the only available American for us this evening. We were down a couple of other bodies, but we felt that if we could keep it tight going into the fourth quarter, that maybe we'd start asking UCD. Yeah, absolutely.
And that was head coach Dave Baker. A bit of technical issues with that video, so apologies. But Colin, staying with you, and not to remind you of last weekend, but you went down by 2 points against DCU Saints 80-78. I hear Emmett Donnelly was the hero of the hour. How are you feeling after that?
Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, look, if we're going to go down a buzzer beater, I prefer it to be Joy than anyone else. Known Joy for a long time. He's beaten me a couple of times now, which is disappointing because he won't let that go. But yeah, look, for us it's a loss on the road, which we probably wouldn't have penciled in at the start of the year, but circumstances dictate reality. So it was, we tried to sneak it in the end, but it was just too much. And obviously Donnelly's shot, it's not a lucky shot, but it's one that we shouldn't have given him either, because we had the ball with the last possession 8 seconds ago and we turned it over. So we made the mistake, he punished us. So it is what it is. Now we'll move on there. They seem to be picking up a bit of momentum as well, so I don't know if that loss is actually going to kill us in the long run either, as far as where we're going to end up in the league. So it's like I said, if we're going to lose like that, might as well beat the Joy. Have a bit of a laugh during the summer with it.
Yeah, well, there's another close game up in Dublin as well, Aina and Colester. Aina winning that 75-73. Again, by the looks of it, we were following it on Twitter from Tralee, and it just seemed to be a really, Colester really came back at them in the last couple of seconds, went down to free throws, I think, at the end. That was a huge result for Aina as well. Yeah,
I think they have 4 wins now at this stage. So again, they're at home, they're a tough team. If they get out in the break, Dunn and Tamara, I think if they get out in the break, they're going to cause teams trouble because they have the size, so they don't give up any easy offensive rebounds, any easy buckets from that. So if they can get out in transition, and their blocker is probably going to be their outside shooting, and if they can progress with that and start knocking down 6-7 a game, then they're going to challenge every team every week. So now they're a bit inconsistent, but they're winning 50-50 games. So it's good to have them, because the last few years they haven't won a lot of games. From Colester, I would think that Colester coming off hitting 17 threes against us, they may have been a bit complacent. I don't know, I didn't see the game, but looking at their 3-point percentages, it was way down from the game against us. So that's the winning and losing of the game for Colester. They need Williams in a row, and Ruiz, is it the smaller Spanish guy, to knock down threes to really put them into the 90s, because they're a very high scoring team when they get going. So it's again another good result for a team that wouldn't be expected to win, but when you're doing the scouting, all the numbers match up to say that Aina should be competitive every week, and it shows by them getting as many wins as they have. Yeah, and especially at home, as you said, they're quite strong at home. But finally, just looking at one last game in the Men's Super League, and two teams you know quite well already this year. Black Amber Temple Oak had a big win down in Tralee against Garvey's Tralee Warriors 80-71. That ended up as Tralee, you obviously met them in the opening game of the season. You caused a bit of an upset. They would have seen it as an upset anyway. And then obviously Temple Oak went to that cracking overtime game in Oblet Hall as well. What did you think of that? Like, it's Tralee's third loss in a row as well, and they've obviously a tough test again going up to Belfast now this weekend. So yeah, again, that's probably for Tralee, it's probably a game they would have expected to win at home, just from being at home. Temple Oak lost 3 games in a row earlier in the season. They're undefeated since then. They've racked off probably 5 wins since then. So I don't think the 3 losses for Tralee is going to bother them too much, other than confidence wise maybe. But to get your confidence back, you only need to win 1 game again, and everyone's happy again at training. It just makes the weeks longer, a bit crankier. Fellas are a bit more, the mistakes are probably magnified. There's a bit more emotion in the loss. So Tralee will be fine once they get a win under the belt. Temple Oak have probably the most depth now, since their Spanish and French guys are available. So they're probably looking at 2 or 3 more losses max. Max, and Bonaparte seems to be back playing well. So they've two fives they can rotate on and off with 2 different lineups, with Puff at the guards, 1 lineup, and Bonaparte at the forward, then the next line. So it's they're going to be very tough for the rest of the season. The 3 losses they had was probably good for league that they got them when they did, before they settled down and before they found their rhythm.
Yeah, indeed. And elsewhere across the league, Moy Cullen and Belfast Star played out a very close one down in Galway. Belfast Star coming out on top of that one. And Mary got their second win of the season up in the Carroll Arena in Greendale. They overcame Cubs 58-71. But moving over to the Women's Super League, and Grania, we're going to come to you, and Niamh will probably come to you as well for some impartial look into the Women's Super League. But Grania, tough weekend for you, but before we go on to that, how are you finding the league this year?
Yeah, I find the league a lot more competitive this year. We've been saying it for the last few years that, like, for us even to get to an international stage, that we have to be better within our own league. And I think the victory scholars that have come in this year are a lot stronger than last year, and teams are starting to build, get a bench, and like Colin said with the men's league, I think there's going to be a lot of ups and downs in our league as well.
Yeah, but one of the ups, at least for one team, Courtyard Liffey Celtics, remaining unbeaten in the Women's Super League at the weekend, going 6-0 at the top of the table. But it was against yourselves down here in the Mardyke. You lost out by 6 on that day. Jasmine Boone top scoring for Liffey Celtics, and Claire Rockall for yourselves. That was a tough test.
Yeah, tough test, but a really enjoyable game. Like, you know, they're the games we want to be playing.
Yeah.
They're the games you're going to learn the most from. You know, Liffey came out on top this time, and, you know, rightly so. We had opportunities to win the game down the stretch. We were up at the start of the game, and we didn't take the opportunities when they came to us. But what we'll take more from that loss than we will from a win that weekend. I think, you know, we have a lot of things to work on, and we're moving in the right direction now for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, definitely. And Niamh, I don't know if you saw that game. I think you did, yeah. I was like, I think I spotted you there. What did you think of it? Is there anything there that stood out for you from either team? Or
I really enjoyed the defensive aspect of both teams, because from last year, you know, in the cup final and league final, they really know each other very, very well.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that aspect, like seeing the different matchups they're doing. What I find looking from the outside into the Super League is that the consistency in coaching, like, you know, you've Mark there now for a few years, knowing his players, like obviously Mark Scannell has been at Glanmire for the last 3-4 years. And it's the same with, you know, DCU, so it makes it a lot easier for players if it's the consistency and the systems are coming in. And even with Leicester, I watched the Leicester game with the girls as well at the start of the season. You can see what coaches are trying to do, and they're starting to learn what other coaches are doing, so that makes it far more interesting and keeps players on their toes, because, you know, Gráinne will learn what Jasmine does well, and people are learning what Gráinne does well, and they went at each other in that game. So it's fun, like, you know, for the spectators to watch players try to neutralise each other, and I really enjoy, you know, now that I'm on the outside looking in, I'm actually enjoying it a lot more.
Big battles on the court,
the big battles,
yeah, definitely. And speaking of battles, your neighbours over in Singleton Super Value, Brunel, brought Maxwell WIT Wildcats to overtime last weekend, and they won out in overtime 71-74. Talking to Francis O'Sullivan there during the week, absolutely delighted. They were 10 down at half time, and obviously brought it level 64-64, and then won by 3. Big win for them.
Yeah, absolutely a massive win for them. Again, I haven't seen the game, and I actually haven't seen Wildcats play at all this year, so I don't really know what they have to offer. But I've seen Brunel in a pre-season this year, and again, that was 8-9 weeks ago, and they've had a few losses as well now, so they've learned from that, and they've got 2-3 wins under their belt, and I think it's 2 in a row now for them, maybe. So hopefully they won't be getting a third this weekend. But look, it was a big win for them, you know, even to get it back to 10, bring it to overtime, and
go on and win.
Yeah, Wildcats was great, especially down in Wildcats. They have a massive gym. It's a small gym, but they always have a massive crowd, so it's hard to play there.
Yeah, cracking atmosphere down there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and of course those two won't be too much strangers to each other, because they will of course meet again in 2 weeks' time in the quarter final of the Hula Hoops National Cup. One other game in the Women's Super League at the weekend, DCU Mercy overcoming Portlaoise Panthers down in Portlaoise. But moving to the men's Division 1, and Mr. Kelleher, I'm coming to you now. You're top of the table, and you're unbeaten alongside Killorglin. How does it feel? You under pressure?
No, I mean, it's different to last year. I mean, I felt last year when we were coming in, we needed to learn about the league. I needed to learn about the league because it was my first time in there. And needed to get to know the players, and as Niamh said, like, different styles and what people are doing. And I mean, we lost a lot this year in the off season. We had to readjust what we were doing, so we're a different style of team this year as well. but I think we're playing well. You know, I don't think we play. You know, from game 2 to last week, I don't think we played particularly well. But last week, I think we found our momentum a little bit better than what we had in recent weeks. We made a few adjustments. Being 3 weeks off, we kind of made a few adjustments to our rotation. We felt we were going too narrow in our rotation. We kind of extended it a bit this weekend. I thought our performance was better because of that, and we seemed to have a bit more energy. So even as coaches, we're looking to learn every week. But yeah, we're in a good spot. But the hard work is to come now, because I think for the next 4 weeks we have the top 4 teams in the league.
Yeah.
So you know, we've played everybody else, but now we've got Cork coming up, Ballincollig this Friday. We still have Father Matthews to go as well. So
a lot of Cork derbies on the cards here. So
we have to go to Elks as well. So I mean, from
Yeah.
here on in, I mean, without sounding complacent, I think we are in the top 7 now, and we're playing top 7 teams for here for the rest of the year. So it's not going to be any cakewalk by any stretch of imagination, nor was previously, was it, you know. So we're I think we're a bit more efficient this year, especially down late in the games. I think we're a better team late in the clock. We lost 3 out of 4 close games last year, games that were close. So it was something that we identified in the off season that we had to get better at, was our execution in tight scenarios. And we've had more of our fair share of them this year. So I think we're getting adept to it, and we're improving at that. But we still have massive areas that we need to get better at.
speaking of tight games, though, one of the cracking games I've seen anyway was your clash with IG Carlow in the Cup. And obviously the turnaround from them since the opening round of the season to running you so close in the Cup. And speaking of Carlow, last weekend they had a massive win against Father Matthews, and I think they're kind of going under the radar a little bit. So I'm going to give Kojak some love here, because I really think they're doing super work down there. And Jimmy Gordon was unbelievable against Father Matthews. What did he have? And Dan as well. They both had 29. Obviously you have to look at Father Matthews as well, Marcus Thomas, who we'll be talking about in a couple of minutes. But that win, that's a huge win for Carlow.
Well, I said it to you before we played there. It's to me, it's the hardest gym in the country to play in.
Worse than Kilkenny, or?
Well, hard and difficult are two different, you know. Or
Every gym is hard for Paul.
What about Upper Glanmire? Who didn't like that one either.
But I think Carlow it's a wonderful facility, but it's a hard place to play. I mean, it's tight, it's atmospheric, you know, and they just make it tough up there. And I still think since the first game, and I said this year as well before we played them, people won't realise how good they are until it's actually on top of them. And you know, they're only on 3 losses. They're pretty much guaranteed top 7 now. So that's another good battle we're going to have to see in the other side of Christmas. But I don't find it a surprise of what they did this weekend. That game we played in the Cup was probably the turnaround in us in understanding what we need to do in close scenarios. And they really put us up to us. They're long, they're quick, they know where they need to get the ball to, and they've got high quality scorers. You know, so I think, you know, they may not see another loss. They if they do, it might be 1, max 2. But they're going to be tough. I mean, they're a good team. Now they're deep. As I said, they know what they want to do, and that Carlow gym is a hard place to play. Yeah,
well, they're definitely defending their home court in style recently. But looking over at their opponents, Father Matthews, although they did come out with a loss, Marcus Thomas has been the talk of the weekend there, because 43 and coming out with a loss, 43 points for one player to still be on the losing team. And then the next day Father Matthews went on to play EJ Sligo All Stars and came out with a big win there, 124 to 73, 124, the highest scoring in the men's Division 1 there, after beating Dublin Lions record of 119. But Marcus Thomas had 61 on Sunday, so he scored over 100 in the space of less than 24 hours. That's crazy.
No one marking him.
Yeah.
Nobody marking him.
No defense, though.
If you see the highlights, that might be the case, but you know, look, I mean, to be able to put the ball in the basket that often at such regularity is an impressive feat. But I think the 43 at the previous day, to me, against the top quality opposition, it might be more what he's capable of, which is scary. You know, so I think when he puts those numbers up against the team that we've just spoken about, that more typifies what he's capable of. And I've seen him against Ballincollig in that first quarter. He was just, he went off in the first quarter, and I've seen him against Elks as well. So I've seen him against top quality opposition. So I'd be more inclined to take those sort of performances than the one against Sligo, without being disrespectful to Sligo, considering that they've lost an awful lot this year with McGarity, and they're American as well. So they're finding their feet, and looking at what they do, their coaches know they're going to be back up next year or the year after. So I think they're going back around in the right direction. So,
and of course Shane O'Mara getting ready to tug out for them as well
yeah,
this weekend.
So and he had some size and toughness to
Yeah.
them as well, and I think that's probably what those young guys need, is a little bit more experience around them, and I think you'll see a different performance if they have that protection around them to allow them to express themselves, because they have some really good players, Nosheen O'Reilly and Cian Lally, who just need a bit of direction, and once they get that, I think they're going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, and another high scoring game. Isaac Westbrooks on Twitter today was asking, do men's Division 1 play defence? Because all the high scoring games, I won't ask you that though. But St. Paul's, Killarney and Ulster University Elks, another overtime game actually at the weekend, and Killarney won by, let's see if I can do my maths, 4 points in the end. A big win for Killarney actually, because Elks are very strong this year as well.
It's a huge win for Killarney in terms of making top 7, because they are in that battle with Portlaoise, LYT and themselves
in that middle ground
there, making out those last 2 spots, I think. So it was a huge win for them. Bootle is a handful. He's not scoring a lot. That might be down to the minutes that he's playing, but he is an absolute handful. He's 6'7". He's a flat out man with shoulders, and he can play both inside and out, and his decision making is quite good. So I think,
well, he caused you a lot of trouble really as well, size wise, because you're quite small.
Well, we're probably the smallest team in the league, so I mean, it's, you look at any.
So you're looking forward to Kilorglan.
I'm ecstatic about it, to be perfectly honest. But with all those 6-7 Lithuanians, the 3 of them that they have, but we'll it's one of those things that we have to come up with a style to stop that, and I think that's what we did on the night. But Killarney on their day, especially at home with 700 people behind them, are a tough ask, and they really create an atmosphere where they can feed off of that. And Elks have struggled on the road this year, but they've been very good at home. So I'm actually surprised they went to overtime, if I'm being perfectly honest, considering. But I think Killarney were probably the favourites going into that, I'd imagine, being at home, and Elks struggles on the road this year. Yeah,
and one last game in the men's Division 1 that we're going to cover, at least there was plenty more. You mentioned Portlaoise already, and LYIT Donegal have been defending their home court very well this year, but Portlaoise went up and fed them a bit of a smack in there, 82-88. Chaz Watler for LYIT with 34, but Tim Stewart, the American for Portlaoise, really proven to be the big difference. 37 points, and then Mantas as well is so big inside for them. I think he had 27 as well. Big win for Portlaoise.
Yeah, well, I think Portlaoise are the team that have kept everybody to their lower score this year. They've been, to answer Isaac Westbrook's question, they're probably the one team that can really grind it. They really know how to make it a half-court game, not let you get out and run. They're long, they're athletic, they know how to rebound. They're good on both ends of the glass. Tim Stewart is a handful in the open floor. But they're a dogged team. They're resilient. For the score to be that high, I was surprised, considering that Portlaoise keep everybody in the late 60s, early 70s. But in saying that, LYT were missing 3 players. So that was a chance for them to get. So I think now, looking at the fixtures, I think it's going to be really, really close coming down the stretch to see who makes those last 2 spots. So it'll be interesting. Yeah,
most definitely. And other games around the league, just to go through them quickly. LIT Celtics overcame Sligo, or Titans even. Sligo lost out to Paris, Texas, Kilkenny, and also, as we out to Father Matthews. Neptune, of course, he overcame Titans. Dublin Lions lost out to Ballincollig in a high scoring affair, 98-110 there. Igor getting the shout out there with 34 points, and that is it from what I can see. But we are moving over to the women's Division 1, and the unbeaten Father Matthews, Niamh Dwyer, are top of the table, 4-0. That's a fantastic achievement so far.
Well, it's a great start to the season, and it really does set us up going into the second half and in December. But we still have to continue. It's a long way to go. It's only 4 games in for us, and there's plenty more basketball to be played by then. But we're off on the right foot. Cup next weekend, and we all know here, Cup is a momentum killer, a momentum swing for you. So if we don't do the job next weekend, that good start could easily be washed away. Yeah, well, you were away to Griffith College Swords Thunder at the weekend, and it was kind of, I suppose we probably
worked it up to be a big game really, because like Swords have been, since it was their first year in the league obviously this year, and they've really kind of, you know, stamped their authority on it on a lot of games. They've shown that they're able to match up. They had a big win against Meteors down in Isagon the weekend before, but you guys went up there and you won out 64-86 in the end. How did you find playing against them? How did you find that game?
Yeah, I thought we did a really good job defensively, and I think they struggled to get a hold of that. They hit a couple of shots in the first quarter to keep them in the game, but I have to say credit to the girls. Like, we really dug in on defense, and we knew what we were up against. Like, their main players and the Americans they brought in were scoring 20 to 30 points a game, so we knew we had to do a job defensively to stay in it. They put up high scores against Kilkenny. They had over 70 points against Kilkenny, who are a good defensive side as well. So we knew what we had to do going up there, and everyone stuck to their jobs, and we had our roles to play. And you know, it was a huge team performance for us. And again, like, the momentum to keep it going now is going to be key. So
yeah, and speaking of big games, Fab Plus Northwest, who are also new into the Women's Division 1 this year, recorded their first win of the season last weekend. So congratulations to them in a big derby against Ulster University Elks. They went out by 4 points.
Yeah, it was a very close game. Look, when you're new, I think they're trying to find their feet. We played them. They made it difficult for us. Like, I know the score lines, like, they're within teams at half time. If you look at the half time scores, it's not a blowout. They kind of lose momentum in the second half. So it just shows that they're learning as they're going along as well. Like, they were in 10 points with us at half time, the same with Meteors, the same actually with UL as well. So it was about time that it was coming for them. Like, the longer they're learning to stick in games. So I think as the season go on, and if they can still stick with teams, the longer they will cause more problems. I think their American against us had about 20 points as well. Like, she's very hard to stop. And as the players around her become more comfortable and they get used to playing in this league and standard, they're going to be a banana skin for a lot of teams going into the second half of the season. And that win should give them the momentum to keep it going now into December and January and onwards.
It's probably nice to them really that everyone might be a bit complacent going in against them maybe as well.
Exactly. Like, look,
nothing like the underdog
it's very, very hard. Yeah, exactly. Underdog, you know, maybe lower expectations as well, like, so they might free them up to play a little harder as well. And I do think they will cause problems if people underestimate them. And you know, it's great momentum swing for them as well, hopefully. Yeah,
and the third game of the weekend, Meteors and UL Huskies, which was always going to be a big battle. Huskies, of course, so experienced, Meteors indeed as experienced, and it was Huskies who took the win also by 4 points on the exact same scoreline, in fact 69-65. But Rachel Sheehan blown it out there with 36 points.
Yeah, and that's what you talk about experience. You know, Rachel's played, you know, college ball, and she played in Super League for years as well. And UL have that experience coming in, and it's huge for UL. They also have Kathy there who's played Super League as well. So they're a very experienced team. They've played well together. They've young players that come in college system with Abby and Eve. So they're getting that kind of mix of experience and youth as well. So it's crucial as well. In Division 1, it's a dangerous mix, like, you know. So you can't switch off with them. We found that ourselves at the week before. Like, we had a double figure lead, and within 4 or 5 minutes it was gone, and it was back down to a 1 point game. So again, that mix as well. Meteors coming down, you know, struggling. I think you know, I found last year I was unexpected the intensity of the league actually, and with American players and foreign players in the league, it's just brought up the intensity and the standard of the league in Division 1. And I think Meteors have kind of been caught on the hop there, but they're a quality side. They have the experience from Super League, and as soon as they adjust, I think they're going to be a very tricky team to get past as well.
Yeah, well, we'll be looking at a lot of games coming up this weekend indeed in that division, because of course the Hula Hoops National Cup is kicking off this weekend in the Women's Division 1. But looking ahead to the weekend, we're going to start over with the Men's Super League, and we're going to head to Oblate Hall and Templeogue and Swords. What do you think of that, Colin? Would you like to predict it, or do you just want to chat
There's
about
no money on it, is there?
No.
Yeah, look, Templeogue are at home, so you'd probably expect them to go in as favourites, but again, with the Dublin teams, there's no travel involved. So it kind of evens it up a bit more than the Cork team going up to Dublin. But Templeogue, with their experience, with they're after integrating the two Bosmans at this stage. So like I said, they're flying in different rotations. Swords are probably a team as well that can match them rotation wise. So it'll just be interesting to see if Swords stick to the lineup they've started with the last couple of weeks to match up with Jason inside, and to see if their second unit can outrun Templeogue's second unit. So it'll definitely be an interesting game. I presume it's going to be streamed So we
she's gone.
yeah, great. Give us something to do Saturday night
Yeah.
before our Sunday game. Yeah, it's again, it's probably one that Templeogue need to win because they've lost the home game already to Leicester. So Templeogue probably need to finish out. I think this is the halfway mark of our season. So
it's before it goes back to the start. Yeah,
goes back to the start. So I think Templeogue will probably need to win that to really, I guess, just to keep them up with UCD. Like say UCD have their front runners. They have the more quality road wins. So it's definitely one Templeogue will not have to win, but will be hoping to win. Swords, I don't think it kills them either way. If they win it, it's great. If they lose it, it doesn't knock them back too far.
Do you think mentally though it might affect Swords more? Because obviously Templeogue, I think if you include the cup, they'll be going for 7 wins in a row this weekend. Whereas Swords kind of had the loss in the cup, then they lost to DCU again the following week. So do you think it would be more of a hit to Swords if they lost again? I know it's hard.
I'm not involved I'm not involved with their setup, to be honest. I don't see how their sessions go, but I couldn't imagine any team with Isaac Westbrooks would lose their confidence after one loss. So I just don't see it. They're fairly battle hard, and there's about 5 or 6 of them have been around for a while now, and they've added good quality to that 5 or 6. So I don't see it destroying their season. The cup as well is coming in a couple of weeks for all of us. So it's these games are important, while the wins and losses, it's not the be all and end all.
Yeah.
Especially when you know that you look at the league, you look at the rest of the results. There's 3 other teams after losing that you don't expect, and so it's not a backbreaker every time you lose.
Yeah, compared to last year indeed. But another game at the weekend, Leicester and DCU Saints, 2 teams you've met in the last fortnight actually, and lost out to, unfortunately. But Leicester at home, the IWA is always a tough place to play in, and DCU, obviously their American has been on such form recently as well, D Proby. It's going to be a bit of an interesting battle between their shooters, really.
I don't know if the wheelchair suits this year's Leicester team. They're more of an outside shooting team, rather. Before they used to be very dependent on post-ups and off ball cuts. This year they're a bit more shooting, so there's not a lot of space in the wheelchair. But then on the opposite side of that, there's not going to be a lot of space for Proby. It's going to be a lot more clogged. His driving lanes, his post-ups after a couple of dribbles, you're in the wheelchair. Even if the teams don't send a double, there's a double there anyway, just based on the spacing. So I would expect if Leicester can get up around 10 made threes, they're going to win the game. Like Proby's going to get his points, he's going to put up attempts. Regardless, it's just trying to hold them to 25 to 30 off 20 shots rather than him getting 25 to 30 off 10 to 15 shots is the key for them. So you would expect again Leicester to win it. I would expect them to win it. Again, there's no money on the line, so it's easy enough to say it. But if DCU win it, it wouldn't hugely shock me. If Provisors was playing it again, that's a different ball game again. I go with Leicester, but not entirely
not by
confident
much though either. If it was, and Belfast and Tralee, looking at that one, like as we said, Tralee trying to turn things around a bit. As you said, 3 losses doesn't seem to be a huge deal in this year's league anyway. But it's a long journey up, as you know, to the Methody. And Belfast have been pretty strong this year as well.
Is that Saturday or Sunday?
It's Saturday.
Yeah, so they'll go up on the day, so that makes it a bit tougher. We went up the night before because it was a Sunday game, so at least it made it a bit easier on our legs, and it's still a tough place to play. It's probably the smallest gym in the league. Again, it'll come down to star shooters. If the Quins get going, then they're a different team. I think against us they definitely shot well last week. They shot well again. So against Mike Cullen, so it's just be case if their outside shooting can nullify the offensive rebounds from the Tralee bigs. If they can come out even in that matchup with their shooting compared to the bigs, then it'll give them a chance with the rest of the lineup. They have enough scoring power at home to win that. I'm not going to bet on that one.
You're not going to bet on that one.
I'm fine with that.
Or anyone so far.
And you guys, just looking at your own game, you're at home. I'd say you're delighted to be at home. You seem to be on the road there for a good stretch. And you're welcoming Cubs to the Mardyke. How are you feeling about that? Looking forward to it?
Yeah, it's grand. It's a game. It's we train 3 times a week, so the games are meant to be the enjoyable part of it. Cubs again, they're a very young side. They're Americans putting up numbers, but you know, you have to learn the league before you can be successful in the league. So they're extremely young. Mark Ingle probably keeps them in games longer than their youth should allow.
Yeah.
So it's so for us, we'll just have to look. We're not exactly in a rich fame for ourselves. We have to try get our injured guys back on the floor this week. Probably skip a few steps in the return to play process. You know, get them on the floor, get them a few minutes with the cup in mind in a few weeks. So it's I'm hoping we win it, and I'm not sitting here in the Mardyke on Sunday disappointed again. But yeah, we'll see how it goes, I guess.
Yeah. Well, two other games in the Men's Super League at the weekend. UCD Marion are playing Moy Cullen at home in UCD, and Mary will welcome Aina down to Oranmore. But moving over to the Women's Super League, and it's the battle for bragging rights in Cork, at least. Singleton Super Value Brunel, all roads lead to the Parochial Hall, as Glanmire are just going down the road.
Yep. Cork derbies, sure, they're always great, whether it's the men or the women playing. Brunel have been coming off the back of 2 wins now, and like we said earlier, that overtime game down in Wildcats, you know, and it'll stand to them. Their American Bree has been putting up big numbers. She's a strong girl. She's been giving them a lot, and I've only seen them play in the pre-season, but Brunel never stop moving. They're constantly on the go. Francis likes this 5-out play, and they're constantly trying to slash and move and cut, and I'm getting too old for everyone running around the place. But you know, like they're definitely they're coming off the back of 2 wins, and they'll be looking to win this one also. But you look at ourselves, then we're after coming off the back of 2 hard losses. Like I said, I think we'll take a lot of last weekend, and we can't focus on Brunel right now. We just have to focus on what we can do ourselves to control how we get on the next game.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be a good game, and I think we'll come out on top.
Oh, fighting words indeed. Well, speaking of your game last weekend, your opponents, Cork Liffey Celtics, are heading up to the Wheelchair in Clontarf for a double header with the men. They're playing Colester. Now that's going to be quite an interesting game. I think Colester have a solid home record. They're very strong at home, and obviously Liffey Celtics unbeaten. What do you think of that?
Yeah, look, we all know what Liffey can offer, and we know how good they are. But I think we played Colester the first game of the season. They have literally a whole new team.
Yeah.
Like there's maybe 2-3 people still there, and I think they're coming together nicely. There's no big, like they're averaging all around the same scores. There's no one else like on the scoring. They're starting to play a lot better. They're becoming more comfortable with each other, and I actually think it'll be a really good game. Yeah.
And of course you're going to be meeting Colester again in the Cup.
Yeah.
2 weeks time.
2 weeks time, absolutely. Yeah. So like we have a tough game against Brunel this weekend to get us ready for Colester, and the same with Colester. So you know, against Liffey. So you know, I reckon it's going to be a good battle.
Yeah, next 2 weeks indeed. There's a lot of good battles, but the third game of that Saturday night in the Women's Super League, DCU Mercy and Maxwell WIT Wildcats. Mercy back at home again, and they've got a good run at home, and then obviously went down to Portlaoise and had a big win down there last Saturday. But Wildcats as well coming into that game off the back of the Brunel loss. You'd imagine that this is going to be a close game as well.
Yeah, you'd like to think so. I think there's nothing much between the teams, you know, this year. Look, we went up to DCU, and they had a 20-point win over us, but previous to that game they played Liffey.
Yeah.
And again, they had their chances to put Liffey away and didn't, and they learned so much of it. So they came out the following weekend and played us, and you know, everyone contributed. And what I find with teams this year a lot, it's their bench that are hurting other teams. It's not their starting 5. You expect certain players in each starting 5 to put up points, and you know, and that's who they're targeting. It's these people coming off these girls coming off the bench that are making the difference this year, and like that's great to see. It's great for the league, and it's like, you know, it's a knock-on effect. So it's really good, you know. So I think DCU, you know, had a good win last weekend. Look, it was misfortunate for Portlaoise coming off the back of a nice win to Carlow, and I'm sure they'll pick themselves back up for this weekend too. But like Wildcats, then, like, you know, they have a coach there in Gillian Hayes, and she'll have her work done, and I think DCU will have a really tough job of it next Saturday night. Yeah,
so a good battle in store indeed. And speaking of Portlaoise, they are the last game of the weekend. Portlaoise Panthers facing NUIG Mystics in St Mary's Hall in Portlaoise at 6 o'clock. Going over to the men's Division 1, and as always there are loads of fixtures and they'll be up on our website tomorrow or so, but we're just going to pick out a couple to focus on, and no more so than Friday night, another Cork derby, this time Neptune and Ballincollig. Bet you're looking forward to it.
I am actually. I think
I didn't doubt it.
Yeah, as Colin said, I mean that's what we practice for. That's what we kind of get ready for. That's what your week is based around. You know. I know they lost to Father Matthews. I still think they're the best team in the league. I think they've got depth. They've got experience. They've got versatility. They've got strength. They've got size. They got with all that they got composure, which makes the team very hard to beat. You know, and they've I mean, if you look at last week against Dublin Lions, I mean they were down a bit the whole game. They lost every quarter apart from the third, and they got a 32-8 third quarter. So they're very good in the second half, and you know we have to be at our absolute best. We have to execute every detail, which is something we preach religiously in what we do. And if we miss a beat, they'll punish us. So we have to be clinical, we have to be composed, and we have to stick with what we've been doing all year. And I think that we've got good chemistry and everyone has their back, each other's back, and I think that's something that's going to earn us an extra few points, and I'm sure Ballincollig will think the same. But I would expect that the atmosphere in the gym is going to be quite good. You know, it's a while since we've had a high level derby, so it's something that we need to. And it will be a high level game. I mean, you got good players on both teams, players that should and probably could be in the Super League. So it's something that I think, you know, the Cork probably should come out and try and enjoy, because I think it's going to be a hell of a game. I think it's going to go into the last minute, if not the last possession.
Well, indeed, if you do want to go out and enjoy that game, that's on Friday night, not Saturday night. So it's this Friday night in Neptune Stadium at 8 o'clock. Looking across the league, and a couple of interesting games there as well. Dublin Lions and Paris, Texas, Kilkenny.
Yeah, I mean, Lions have been putting up numbers the last few weeks.
Massive, yeah.
Huge numbers. You know, maybe the reins are off or whatever it is. Sometimes as coach we can hold players back, but you know they've put up over 100 points in the last couple of games. So, and Kilkenny have been there thereabouts in all their games as well. So that's another close one. Lions at home. You know, they get a good crowd there, and they might just pip it, and it might just be a turning point of their season. Yeah.
And what about Clorglan? They're also unbeaten, same as yourselves. You're the only two left now unbeaten, so big target on your backs. Donegal?
I think Donegal are missing a few.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, as much as I'd like to see Walter go off on a 50 plus, you know, I think you know with the amount of foreign experience that Clorglan have, with the two Americans and the size of their European imports, and Letterkenny missing a couple of their bigs, I think there's only one outcome on that one.
Yeah, and especially home in Clorglan as well. And speaking of County Kerry, the last game we're just going to look at quickly, St Paul's Killarney and Father Matthews. That's a very interesting one there, isn't it?
It's probably the most unpredictable one of the weekend.
Yeah.
Killarney, so they're good at home. If Marcus Thomas comes to play, I'm not sure who can guard them on the perimeter. His versatility is very good, but at the same time I'm wondering who can guard Boothel if he plays long enough.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously they've got another American to come off in Justin Tucson, who's been putting up some decent numbers himself from the perimeter. So, you know, but I think the key is Lucy. You know, if Lucy comes to play, I think that might pip him. And if he's on one of his off nights, then I think Father Matthews could pip him.
Interesting one to call. Other games around the league, EJ Sligo All-Stars are welcoming IT Carlow basketball. Portage Panthers are at home to Titans, and Paris, Texas, Kilkenny will play St Paul's Killarney. Both of those teams obviously having a double-header weekend as well. And just speaking of IT Carlow, it just reminded me that the Freshers tournament is also tipping off this weekend. It's up in DKIT, Dundalk Institute of Technology, and admission is free throughout the weekend. So if you fancy going up to see some of the Freshers teams, starting at, I want to say 9:30 a.m. in the morning on Saturday morning, running through till 9 o'clock that night, and then the finals will be held on Sunday. All the details of that, of course, are up on the Basketball Ireland website. But just before I go over to Niamh, another thing that just popped up on Twitter there, Courtside Collective have asked, who do you think would win the All-Star Men's Super League team or the All-Star Men's Division 1 team if there was to be a game? Would you like that to be a game, in fact?
Yeah, we can play it abroad as well.
Good idea, Colin.
Where would you like to go? We'll get Conor Meany on it.
Anywhere but Dublin. I'm going to say we win it comfortably.
Yeah, there you go.
Comfortably, and I might not even make the team. Probably not at this stage. I just don't see it. What I've seen in Division 1, I think the Irish Guards can match up with the Division 1 American Guards that are putting up all these numbers, and the bigs in the league can match up with the bigs in the Super League. There's a big step up, and people don't realise that it is a huge step up. It takes you a couple of years to actually figure out the Super League, and that's only one opinion, but I just don't. I'd be entertaining game, like I said. I'd go watch it.
I'd agree. I mean, I've said to many people, the style that we played Division 1, I'm not sure if we're fortunate enough to go up next year. I'm not sure we can play that tempo up there. Teams are too experienced, teams are too composed. They'd pick it apart. So we'd have to be much more versatile in how we defend, and that's not any disrespect to teams in the Division 1 because what they do, they're good at, and they've caused us problems in what they do. But as Colin said, it is a massive step up, and I think even Mary, who have dominated Division 1 for such a long time, have found it difficult the first couple of weeks, and they're beginning to find their form, and that's just experience. And John Finn doing the job there, and they're just knowing what they're good at, and probably going back to finding what they're good at and seeing can that fix it. But as you can see, I mean, it's a massive skip. And even when coming from up there to come down, it's a different style, so you're having to readjust and you're having to find a way to suit the players as opposed to wanting to do things your own way and things like that. So it's I would concur with Colin that I think it would. I think they'd have a bit too much.
It's an interesting one to watch, though. I'll say.
Yeah, we can still do it. That's
in Barcelona.
In Barcelona. Perfect. Well, moving over to the final division for the preview of the weekend, and it is Hula Hoops and National Cup time in the Women's Division 1. So the Senior Women's Cup quarterfinals kicking off, and what a cracker is Cork is the place to be this weekend, guys. What a cracker there is in every weekend. Sorry, in Closh Creasery. You're meeting Marble City Hawks. Obviously, they knocked you out of the cup last year.
At the same time,
At the same time, and obviously went on then to the final, the whole way through to the final, where they got knocked out by Ulster Rockets, of course, in that overtime thriller. But you've met them already this year. You had the better of them. But they've been unbeaten since you beat them, if that makes sense.
They've only the one loss.
They've only
much
better English.
Yeah. They've only the one loss, and that was to us. But last year again, we beat them at on our home gym in the early games of the season, and they caught us in the cup. Look, we know each other very well. Like Kilkenny have the same team they had last year, and that definitely stands to them. If you look at the games, they've been in tight games all along. And other than ourselves, thankfully, they've pulled out the games. And that's what comes when you have a couple of years playing together with the same coach and the same players. It will be tight. Obviously, we're going to win. But I wouldn't be betting on it, as Colin said. Like, if there's no money on it, like, do you know what I mean? If there's money on it, it'd be a hard one to call. Look, it's the team who shows up on the night who's going to play, and it's going to be huge momentum for both of us going in. And I think both teams understand, in terms of the league as well, you have those 2 games in January that you miss out on if you're not in that cup final, and that's a huge momentum in the league as well. So Kilkenny be aware of what we're good at, we're aware of what they're good at. It'll come down to which team on the night executes the bets and which team shows up.
And how do you find that dynamic duo, I suppose, Kelly and Katie there for them as well? They've really kind of stepped up even more this year. It's proven to be trouble for everyone.
They're very good players and quality players, and I think as well, like, what you can't underestimate is the other players are good as well. And I think last year we played them first game after Christmas, and we neutralised Kelly and we neutralised Katie as best we could, like, and it was their other players that stepped up and hurt us. Yeah, exactly. So they're great players, but they have the sporting cast around them as well. And if you underestimate any of those players on any given night, they can hurt you. And we're hopefully not going to fall into the same trap as we did last year, over focusing on a certain players, and other players hurt us. So you know, we have to have the complete game if we want to come out victorious at the weekend.
Yeah, indeed. Well, there you go. That's your lineup for the weekend. Done Friday in Neptune, Saturday over to Closh to Crease, and then Sunday you'll have to pick between Brunel and the Mardyke for your Cork games. But definitely a feast of basketball down here. One last game in the Women's Division 1, Ulster University Elks and Meteors in the other cup final. Elks, of course, home in Jordanstown, which is a trip up for Meteors, of course, and both of them going in with losses from last weekend.
Yeah, it's a tricky one to call. Like I said, Elks would have been surprised with the loss against Donegal, especially when you look at the results across the board. But as I said, Donegal are a tough team. They hang in a long time, and you know they finally got their just rewards. It's going to be a big one for Elks. They're a young team as well, and cup is a huge pressure thing. Like, you know, in Ireland, you know, we emphasise the cup so much. Meteors have the experience. You know, they've played Super League. They're coming down. Like I said, as Paul, you know, coming down is an adjustment. It's a different style. It's very rugged, very physical in Division 1, and they're finding that adjustment. I would have to give to Meteors based on the experience and the lack of you know, the youth in it, but it's a tough gym to go up to, you know, Belfast and play, and the trip up for Meteors will be tough. I'll just give it to Meteors just by the pip, just based on experience.
Set to be a close one though, and the other quarter final isn't being played till the following weekend, so that's the weekend of the 1st to the 3rd of December. Hard to believe we're at that stage already, and that is Fab Plus Northwest, who are going to be hosting UL Huskies, and Griffith College Swords Thunder getting a bye into the semi-finals in January. And just one last thing before we go, speaking of that weekend, December 1st to 3rd, it is of course the Belfast Classic weekend as well, so if you fancy catching some top college basketball up in Belfast, the tickets are still on sale. It's on in the Odyssey Arena. It's on the Friday the 1st and Saturday the 2nd of December, and all games on the Saturday, of course, in Basketball Ireland fixtures, there'll be no games going ahead on that Saturday, so everyone is free to go up to Belfast to watch those games. But that's all we have time for today, folks. Thanks a million to everyone for coming along and for your great insights into the league, and we shall be back around the same time next week.